All right. Call to order. Mr. Alderman Bob Foster.
Here.
Mr. Alderman Mark Lawrence.
Here.
And here. Mr. Alderman David Montgomery. Here. Mr. Alderman Steve Lee. Yes. So I'll stand. We'll have a moment of silent prayer and reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And in response to COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to the executive order, we're abiding by social distancing tonight. The meeting is held by Zoom, and the public is able to connect with us in that manner. In addition, the meeting will be recorded and will be available within 48 hours. And on that note, minutes are included in the packet. If no questions or corrections, we'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve this.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And expenditures are also included. Monica is on vacation this week, but she has included a memo of significant claims. And unless there is any questions or items to pull, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now we will introduce Representative John Black and Ken Kelly to present our police department with a House resolution.
Chief Hannon, would you be willing to come up here close to us? I guess within 6 feet. You all know Representative Kelly. The world is somewhat challenging right now, as we all know. I was at Webco last week talking to the administrator there out in the parking lot. And we have a lot of heroes in our everyday world right now. And Representative Kelly and I have a resolution, Missouri House of Representatives resolution that we believe reflect that. And Representative Kelly, whenever you have words to say, or if you want to start, or
well, you have spoken well, and I don't have a whole lot to add, but to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership, and know that you have our support, and know that just no matter what the headlines say here in Webster County, we back you, and we're with you, both here and in Jefferson City. And it's an honor to be protected by you, and know that we appreciate your sacrifice and your family's sacrifice every day. And thankful for it very much. And Representative Black, would you like to lead? There you go.
Whereas the members of the Missouri House of Representatives hold in high regard those show-me state law enforcement agencies that admirably enhance the quality of life in local communities and neighborhoods throughout the state of Missouri with their professional sacrifice.
Okay. Whereas law enforcement agencies in Webster County are to be commended for their outstanding service to the community, and whereas each day approximately 800,000 law enforcement officers across the country put on a badge, not knowing what dangers they may face in the line of duty. And whereas on average between 80 and 150 officers die in the line of duty each year, 57,000 officers are assaulted in the line of duty each year. 14,000 officers are injured in the line of duty each year, and approximately 17 out of 100,000 police officers die by suicide each year.
Whereas Many law enforcement officers are community activists who put their lives on the line to defend citizens against violent crime and to keep the community safe. And whereas officers of the Webster County law enforcement agencies are charged with pursuing justice for all individuals and performing their duties with fidelity to the constitutional and civil rights of the individuals that the law enforcement officers so valiantly serve.
Now therefore be it resolved that we, the members of the Missouri House of Representatives 100th General Assembly, join to applaud Webster County law enforcement agencies for their service to the community, and to convey to all of those involved this legislative body's most heartfelt best wishes for the continued success for many more years to come. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Missouri House of Representatives be instructed to prepare a properly inscribed copy of this resolution for Webster County law enforcement agencies. We thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Perfect. We were privileged to provide a copy to the sheriff. And now we're privileged to provide a copy to the chief of police. We thank you all for what you do. Thank you all for
so
what you do.
much. Yes, thank
Thanks.
you guys
Thanks a lot.
so much. See you all later.
Okay, we are going to postpone our COVID-19 update until Michael is available. Which means, Mark, are you ready to go or do you need a minute? I don't mind either way.
I can take just a minute.
Let's take a minute and go to Ash Drive.
We get Robin Bond is on here. You guys, as you guys may recall, Robbie came to a Board of Alderman meeting previously to kind of gauge and see if it would be supported in order for him to build a house on the end of Ash Drive. It needs to be extended roughly 20 feet, 25 feet. And there's no other roads in that area that are curb and gutter. Our current street standards call for curb and gutter and 30 feet back curb to back curb. The current road is it's just right at 21 feet. So what Robbie's asking for, is a variance or a waiver for the street specifications. I've met with Robbie out there on site, and I've talked to him. If they want to construct the road prior to the saying that the board is in favor of, if they want to construct the road prior to them breaking ground, then I would have no problem with that if they were going to build that to our street specs. If they want to start prior to being able to get that done, what I've conferred with Paul Link, our attorney, and what we come up with is that Robert would need to put up a $5,000 performance bond. What that would do is that would cover us to, if Robbie fails or defaults to build that road, and done, we would have means to do it by calling that quickly. With that, I don't know if you guys have any questions for Robbie or not.
Well, it's for you, just a reminder.
Uh-huh.
I think part of that decision was based on the fact that it may not be the guidelines, but it matches the road that's there.
Right. And one thing that Robbie has asked, just a little bit different from where we used here before, is if we had a problem with that going back in concrete rather than asphalt. And we started to do several street patches with concrete.
Yeah.
No, I don't see any issues with it. So.
Right. Maybe.
And so I did talk to Paul, and he basically said if the board was in favor of this, you just need to do it by a roll call vote.
So, a motion to approve the variance and performance bond for Ash Drive extension.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, roll call please. Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee. Yes. Okay.
Robert, do you have any questions about what just happened?
No, that's what we talked about. No, I'm good with all that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Since we got Mel on the line, do we want to go ahead and do the sewer expansion casings?
Yes. This one. Mel, can you hear me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep. You just want to take off with it?
Yeah, can I share my screen?
I think you should. I think I gave you permission. I think.
It says disabled. There it goes.
Good.
All right. Okay, I'll kind of start with this. Can you all see that well?
Yes.
Okay, this is a slide from our last presentation, which kind of talked about the summary of what we are able to save by going in and putting these casings in right now while you build that interchange project, and it kind of dealt with sewer and water. So as of our last presentation, we're saying, hey, if you go in and do this right now, you'd save about $563,000 in the sewer, and then the water, you'd save about $218,000 for a total of about $782,000. And at that meeting, you asked us to review a proposal that we had got from HR Quadri and to come back with you at this meeting with a recommendation. And so we've sent a letter, which Sam has, but essentially, if we do this, what we'd be doing is we would be doing a change order. Actually, MoDOT would be doing a change order with their contract with HR Quadri for the interchange project, and then you guys would just pay for the cost of that work through your cost share. And I've talked to MoDOT; they don't see any problem with this. There's 5 casings, which I can show you on a map here in a minute, for a total of 1,316 feet. And I'm going to give you options for, I'm going to give you 3 different options for what we would put in: a 24-inch steel casing, a 24-inch concrete casing, and a 30-inch concrete casing. And I'll kind of talk about each of those so that you can make an informed decision. But so let me go down here. This is the location of them. So you can see the new interchange here. And so we've got a long casing and a short casing just east of that new interchange. This is I-44 right here. And then we have 2 more casings that are right next to each other east of that, and then another casing east of that. So that's the 5 casings that we're talking about. And the purpose of those is to be able to easily facilitate future sewers for development along that corridor. So back to the different options. We looked at more casings than this. We looked at casings to do the whole project we've been talking about. These are the time critical ones. We can do the other ones later at your convenience when you decide to do projects. But these are critical right now if we're going to get them done as part of the interchange project. And the contractor asked that if we're going to do it, that the city make a decision tonight so that it wouldn't mess with their schedule on the interchange project. So initially we talked about putting in 24-inch steel casings, and the price for that was $268,478. The contractor came back and said, hey, we are really not equipped to easily do steel because they have to weld these large steel pipes together, and they're just really not set up for that. They said, hey, we can do concrete cheaper and save you some money. And so they gave us this price for a 24-inch concrete pipe of $209,185, which is a substantial savings. Obviously, it's about 60 grand. And so we evaluated that, and we're fine with concrete casing. Our concern with that is that the joints are like roughly every 7 feet. So you'd have tons of joints, and they have to get them really straight in order to maximize the use of this casing. And so we asked them to also provide a 30-inch casing option, just in case they get, a couple joints off a little bit, that we'd be able to put as big a pipe as we'd want to into it long term. And this is really a future thing, because initially we're going to put 8-inch pipes in these things, but we wanted to set this up, since you're doing it now, so that you would have tons of potential in the future if development really goes crazy out there. So we set these up so that you could get an 18-inch pipe in these. So so that was kind of our goal, is to give you a lot of flexibility. And the same thing is happening on your water line. On your water line, the ones that were spec'd by CMT are 24 inches as well, for similar purposes. Anyway, so $268,000 for steel, or $209,000 for concrete. And then if we're worried about their construction tolerances, for another $16,000 or $16,000 or $17,000, we could get a 30-inch for $225,000. So I really didn't want to make the decision on that. I mean, I think that you guys need to understand what we're doing, and then I can kind of help guide you and give you information to make an informed decision. I personally would go with the concrete, because it's a lot of savings. And then whether or not you go with a 24 or a 30-inch casing depends on your basically tolerance for risk. Now, the contractor has said that they can put this 24-inch in with a high degree of accuracy, and they are not concerned about whether or not they need to upgrade it to a 30-inch. So it's just kind of a factor of safety, whether you want to spend that $16,000 or $17,000 more to know you've got, a lot of future flexibility in these casings. So you can think about that for a second while I kind of talk about the next steps. The next steps, if you decide to move forward with this tonight, is that we would tell MoDOT what your decision is, so that they could get that change order prepared and approved between MoDOT and HR Quadri. And then we have to turn in a MoDOT crossing permits, which we've already prepared. And then when they are actually doing that work, our existing contract with you provides construction phase services. So we would basically inspect the installation of those. So that's kind of where we're at. What questions can I answer?
So remind me, this going through MoDOT, they will or will not cost share on this?
No,
This is on us.
Yeah, it's totally outside of that.
As to the question of, I mean, we're going to be, it sounds to me like we're either going to be dealing with 24-inch concrete or 30-inch concrete. And for the very small difference, I'd rather not look back 10 years from now and say, why didn't we spend that 16 or 15.5 to not have the trouble we're having right now by running out of space? Or I understand what they're saying. If the joints are off, it starts to meander a little bit, and the straight line through isn't as wide, isn't as wide.
Yep.
And so for me, right now at this moment, especially with this really nominal price difference, it's an easy call for me, 30-inch over 24.
I will say, Mel, correct me where I'm wrong. I was talking to Steve Blanovich with HR Quadri. If you guys want to move forward with that, he felt more comfortable with you guys to give him a take a roll call vote, because he actually needs to order material tomorrow, and then basically we'll bring the change order agreement with MoDOT back to you as soon as we get it back to MoDOT.
I move that we approve a change order agreement for the 30-inch concrete option for the casings that have been mentioned tonight.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please. Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McElwain,
Yes.
Blue,
Yes.
On that though, I'd like to also say, okay, look, so that's over $200,000, and that's going to come from where?
The revenue bonds that we refinance out of the water side, and so there's roughly $1 million left over out of the bonding
So
capacity.
the impact is the cost of that money. Right, it's because there's interest on it.
Yes.
So that's the impact, is the
Yes.
cost.
Yes, and that's all, that's also it's also some of the contingency monies for the other projects that we're doing out of that, meaning down at the treatment plant. And then.
So it reduces our available cash, lending power, or borrowing power for future contingencies that may come up.
Well, right, I don't know if I would probably reword it to say that there's contingencies figured into each project that we have.
Sure.
This is extra contingency that's set off to the side, but it's also for the hope. One, we wound up with more money than what we thought we were going to because of low interest rates. So we were projecting to have around $900,000 left. We actually came out with like 1.2, a little over 1.2. So the hope is that through these projects, everything stays like it's going now. And I've been telling you that there's a potential significant change order coming down the plant over how it all comes into the headworks. So we're still not ready to present on that, but the remainder of those monies, they are tied to water and sewer projects. And so it's the same thing we're paying for the water extension out in that area with. But this is one of the areas that we're hoping, we talked about taking lift station 6 offline and putting that bore under the interstate. And so these are the funds that would pay for that as well.
Okay, but they're still limited, right?
They are still limited, yes. So
you said there's a significant one coming. How's that gonna, if you look at it as a piece of pie, what percentage of the pie is already gone?
So CMP gave us Branco gave us a estimate, right? And so we took that, and it was about $100,000 for what we want to do. We scaled that back. We're actually potentially building a building to get redundancy and to get a crossing. I'll present all that appropriately when we're ready. But we reduced it dramatically from that. How dramatically, I don't know, because I just got the email yesterday that I just want to give you a ballpark, right? That's the range that we're looking at.
So when you have a chance to look at that, and also maybe when Monica gets back, let's look at what the whole contingency pie was.
Sure.
And how many slices are out now, and how much is left based on what we anticipate.
So out of the 1.2, right? So the contract that we signed for all of this work to get to this point, that came out of that, and so then this will come out of that, and so absolutely, Monica's got that. She's got that. I don't know if it's in here. If not, it'll be in the next one for sure. Yeah, we got it already.
We'll be about 20% of the pie.
What's that?
This particular one will be about 20% of a $1.2 million pie.
You're saying 1.2 is the contingency? That's what I'm talking about.
That's the total. That's the total amount.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is going to come out of contingency, right?
No. So
this is understood.
No. Yeah. No. This is just this is additional borrowing capacity. If I'm saying that right. Right. I mean.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Borrowing capacity, but the project had certain. When we looked at it initially, the project had a certain amount of contingency.
Yes.
I would consider this as a contingency, right? This is coming out of the contingency pie. Or we ought to look at it that way, or all be on the same page if we're saying, well, since we are eligible for it, we're just going to go ahead and spend that much more money. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that we don't. I think this is a smart move. There's no question about that. But as we go forward, we just have to keep track of what's left in with all the things we've got to do. So
let me say this in this maybe this is cleared up, maybe wrong. So out of the $10 million that the voters approved, the 1 to 1.2 is what was not committed to projects. Does that help anything? The 1 point basically we spent
of our ability to borrow. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. But understand where I'm coming from.
Yes, I do.
I want to make sure
I'm
understood. Is we decided, okay, we're going to do this project by project with a certain budget in mind.
Right.
We found out we can borrow more, but that's not the same as saying we changed the budget.
Right.
Okay. That's what I'm. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I'm understood.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, and Monica, like I said, Monica's got it. She's got it all. She's got all that set aside, and she's got the financing plan, and she's got exactly all the decisions that you guys have made. This will go into that, and so we'll bring that back.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
You bet.
Okay. Want to go back to pool update?
Yes, ma'am. We opened the pool on July 4th. Went to the parade and the pool opened at 2 o'clock, and lo and behold, is at about 1:50 that there wasn't lightning and thunder that persisted for several hours. And there were several people who just waited it out in the parking lot. We were finally able to open toward the end. I think they got a couple of hours to swim. But we did have people in the pool that had come out on the 4th of July. And we've been open ever since. Since that time, we have sold, we've had 722 people come in since last Saturday. And last Saturday, there was only a handful. So between Sunday and a couple of hours into it today, we've had 722 people through the gate. We got 625 daily passes, and we have a military pass, and 75 people have used season passes. We had 3 senior passes in that. We have sold a total of 51 of our season passes. We sold 29 here at City Hall, and we've sold 22 at the pool. So that's going well. Taking credit card payments from day one. I think we've had, let's see here, we've had 77 credit card transactions out there at the pool. So it's been busy. It's been great. We've got our limitation of 159 people as set forward by the task force, and we're keeping track of people as they come in and go out. So we've got I can call anytime and say, what's the number? They know exactly how many people are in the facility at one time. We've gotten up to 130 at one time is the most that we've had, which gives us a pretty good buffer there. And that's been on a hot day. And I hope it just continues to go just like that. We do have a plan to take names, kind of like you do at a restaurant. If we reach that 159 capacity, the next person can't come in until somebody else leaves. It's kind of like, a restaurant waiting to be seated. We're going to take their number and they can go wait in their pool bar if they want to, or someplace nearby. And when somebody leaves, we'll give them a call and ask them if they still want their spot. We'll hold it for a couple of minutes, and if they don't, we can't get a hold of them, we'll move to the next people on the list and continue to rotate. And that's our plan for now. If it becomes a normal problem, we'll have to revisit how we're going to do that, possibly session days or anything like that. But I think things are going well so far. We've got 27 total lifeguards at the pool. 12 of those finished a training on July 3rd that we conducted in-house. I am an instructor, a Red Cross instructor, so I conducted that course for them. They did about 30 hours of total work, and about half of that, or a little bit more, was actually on site at the pool. People at the pool are following social distancing. Our staff are wearing masks indoors. Our front staff and our concession staff are wearing their masks. Lifeguards don't wear masks on the stand, but when they get off the stand, they're masking up, and people are bringing their own chairs. We put those signage out and messaging out. We've got COVID messages that we had printed in sign effects that look nice, and our uniform all around the facility there. And I think things is a good positive start, in my opinion.
Any questions on pool operations?
The one other thing I wanted to just kind of inform you on is the progress on the Vortex Aquapod play structure. As you know, that was reassembled on site, and they did put it all back together, and they cut new fiberglass panels where the fiberglass didn't meet up and things of that nature. They completed a large portion of the punch list that we had for them. They did not bring gel coat to take care of the gouges, or there's several deep scratches that were on there when we got it. That was on my original punch list for fall, that was included in the letter that Vortex sent back to us saying that they would fix. And so I raised my hand and said, hey, we're not through with this yet. We've got these items, and the biggest item is that the tumble bucket is not functioning like it should. Still having issues with that. They went ahead and contracted someone to completely rewrite the software for that panel. So there's somebody rewriting brand new software for that panel, and as soon as that person's finished writing that software, they have contracted with the company from the person who was originally there to oversee the install. His name's Mike Henry. He's the one who came back to reinstall it this time. He's going to come back and finish those repairs and put that software into the tumble bucket and complete the punch list. I've been on phone conferences with representatives from Vortex and representatives from Westport Pools, and it's an urgent matter. Westport Pools is helping to push that matter because, as you know, we're withholding the final pay application for Westport Construction, who's withholding that payment from Westport Pools until this project is completed. Westport Pools did reach out through their attorney to Paul Link, our city attorney, and request that final payment to be done. Basically, I said, listen, we're not substantially complete. The biggest feature on that play structure is not operational. And they said it would be operational. So I have been in contact with our architect from SAP Designs, and she was in agreement that it was not complete and that it needed to be complete before we release that last pay application. That's number 17. I believe that's the final pay application. Monica's not here to back me up, so I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the final application for a total of $70,356.50 that is continuing to be withheld from Westport Construction at this time. And that's the update. I'm thinking a couple of weeks they'll have that set up, and Mike and Bree can come back in. I may have to close off the play structure itself when he comes back in to work on it, but I will not have to drain any water out of the pool, and we will still be able to have guests in the pool as he's doing his work. We'll just rope that play structure off and keep them away from the work that they're doing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Evidently, rocket science is easier than children play structures.
Yeah, that technology that they used on that is obsolete. What they've gone back to is kind of like a toilet with a float and a plunger. And when the water gets to a certain level, it pulls the plunger up and the water dumps out of the bucket, or that the whole bucket tips over, and it's much more consistent.
That's good. That's good.
All right, thank you. Looks like we have Mr. Taylor with us now. We'll go back to our COVID-19 update.
Very good. Sorry, I ran a little bit behind. I missed the fact that the meeting had been pushed back tonight. So hopefully everybody's got a copy of this. Again, we're not looking as good as I'd hoped, and definitely things have changed since we last spoke on the topic. So just getting into the numbers, CDC is reporting 3,047,671 cases in the United States, of which 64,771 are new, and that's obviously an extremely high number. It's, if I'm not mistaken, probably the highest number we've seen or near it. And so those are in the last 24 hours. There's been a total of 132,056 deaths, of which 991 of those are new in the last 24 hours in the U.S. Missouri is reporting 25,999 cases in Missouri. That's representing an 8.4 increase over the last 7 days, which is pretty significant. And 1,051 deaths out of 454,825 persons tested in Missouri. Excuse me, statistic 113 of 114 is actually inaccurate. Hickory County has now joined the list, and that should say 114 of the 114 counties are now reporting cases. World Health is saying 11,874,226 cases worldwide, with 545,481 deaths in 216 countries. Currently, we have had 47, and actually just before the meeting a bit, we actually got notified number 48. So that's outdated since I typed it this afternoon. So it's 48 cases, 2,172 persons tested here in the county thus far. 7 of those are in the central region of Webster County. Currently, 23 patients are actively ill in the county. 2 patients are hospitalized, and 24 have recovered. Along with this, we have 34 pending results. Approximately 35 are being monitored in the county, and this number has obviously gone way up. We've got 92 in quarantine throughout Webster County. At this time, we've still had the 1 death. The counties there, obviously we won't go through them all. I will point out again that Hickory County was our holdout, and it now has its first case. So all the counties in Missouri are now reporting cases. The cases by age range, the under 20, 2,207 cases. 20 to 29, you'll notice has taken the lead on that, 5,009 cases. 30 to 39, 4,245. 40 to 49, 3,710. 50 to 59 is 3,789. 60 to 69 is 2,994, and then the 70 plus categories 4,003. The deaths, we still not had any under the age of 20. 5, that number's gone up a little bit in the 20 to 29 range. 4 in the 30 to 39, 40 to 49, we've had 20. 50 to 59, we've jumped a little bit at 67. 60 to 69, 149, and as always, the 70 plus age bracket has the highest at 806. Cases by sex is 11,838, females 13,962, and not yet identified as 197. So under the assumption something kind of said at the beginning, we've seen a significant uptick in the COVID cases in Webster County since June 17th. Cases are increasing statewide as well, at an accelerated rate. COVID-related hospital admission rates has also increased in our region at our Springfield hospitals. We're still obviously encouraging and recommending the face mask usage. As I reported earlier, 454,825 persons have been tested to date. We're still looking at this. If we may not come out of the first wave of this before fall, the way it's looking, so it may not be so much of a reoccurrence as a continuance into the fall and the winter. Likely to still be prevalent for some time for the foreseeable future. We're still seeing the majority of those deaths in the nursing homes. However, I'm happy to report that no nursing home cases in Webster County at this point. Studies are showing that the presence of antibodies may not provide long-term protection from reinfection. That was something that was originally felt and thought, and it may provide short-term, but most recent studies are showing that those are diminishing after a couple months. The antibody levels are falling off rapidly after a couple months, so long-term protection may not be achieved by the antibodies. In other words, if you get it, you're very likely may be able to get it again after a couple months. Webster County Task Force still monitoring everything that's going on in the county. We do have another drive-through test site scheduled for the fairgrounds on the 13th, so it'd be Monday. It's again free of charge. We're doing symptomatic and asymptomatic persons again, and we'll also be offering the antibody testing to anyone who would like that. Due to the recent spike, the task force has put out a list of recommendations and requirements for counties and municipalities in the county to consider for adoption. Those were out prior to the executive order that Mayor McNish put out. The community information has pretty much remained the same. I did underline one of the symptoms, the diarrhea and GI symptoms. Of the last several cases I've had some involvement with have displayed those. In fact, those were pretty much their only symptoms. Just trying to highlight that as something we're seeing here locally. State actions have been none currently. In fact, the governor has stopped his teleconferences that we were doing weekly. County actions, spoke with yesterday, and at this point, they're not planning any actions and have not taken any actions at this time. As far as my office, we're still obviously participating with the COVID task force, reviewing daily briefing from multiple agencies, keeping on top of what's going on throughout the county, the state, and the U.S. Keep the county fire chiefs up to date. Participate in meetings with the local health organizations for the testing sites. Assisted with COVID task force guidelines for consideration by county and municipalities, and discussed task force guidelines with city administration related to the new executive order. Prevention measures remain the same. And then, as far as recommendations, the task force, we were very glad to see the board and Mayor McNish put out the recent order. We think it was directly on point to help slow the spread of the virus in the community while limiting the impact on the businesses and citizens as much as possible. We also looked at the recent July 4th holiday could put us in a situation to see an additional spike. Of course, that will be seen in the future. We also think that timing was very appropriate for the order, as that may help slow some of the spread if we do see that spike, because obviously we'll be looking at the next 7 to 14 days to start seeing what that's going to do. Task force will continue to monitor the situation in the county and bring forth any recommendations as we deem necessary, or answer any questions that anybody may have. So with that, that's the report I have. Any questions or thing I can answer?
Yeah, going back to symptoms, Mike, can you hear me?
Yes.
Did I understand that any of those symptoms could be isolated symptoms, the only ones present? It's not necessarily all of these together, but it could be literally any combination, or any single one could be the only thing that would be the indicator.
Yes, we're totally asymptomatic. We've had several people that's just been tested for because they thought they could have been exposed, had no symptoms, and come back positive. But in fact, I don't know that we've really had anyone that I'm aware of that's had all the symptoms. A couple of the cases that I'm familiar with, they had a scratchy throat, ended up testing positive. We've had a couple that I'm familiar with that had diarrhea. We've had a few that's just had the shakes or chills. So yes, it can be none of or any one of the symptoms that you see listed there.
Thanks, Chief.
And I'll add a little bit to this. So everyone here is familiar with the new order that was executed Monday and released publicly Monday and Tuesday. We meaning city staff and I, worked together to come up with a plan to distribute this information. We're still kind of fine tuning how that works in the future, so that we come up with a system that we know is reliable, that gets the information out as timely as possible. And we're also looking at the effects of staff time and cost as well. So we may refine that in the future as we need to, and we'll kind of let you know how that goes. Also, in addition to this, as I had communicated to you as we were going through this process, I have been in conversation with not only Chief Taylor, but with Terry Banks, with board members of our health unit, also in Green County, and some state officials as well. I've just called everybody I thought I could reach out to get some input regarding other things that we could keep tabs on. in order to feel like we have the best information possible. And so from that, I've added some numbers to what Michael has done amazing work to keep track of for us. In that I'm marking down specific zone changes within Webster County that give us a more isolated or a closer view of what our specific area of Webster County may be impacted. The Webster County Health Unit today released the amount of testing completed for Webster County residents. She explains to me that that may not be 100% accurate. She doesn't have complete faith in the number. My understanding, my limited understanding, is that she doesn't feel like all the negative cases get reported back, that there was a test that went through. But with that information, we can get a ratio that we can track, and we can see a spike that's developing that way. And then the other two things that I think are really important for us to keep a handle on are hospitalizations and ventilations, and the strain on our EMS services. So I have reached out first to the Missouri Hospitals Association and then to Greene County Health Department to obtain the number that are hospitalized in our Greene County hospitals, because any Webster County citizen that's impacted is probably going to use a Springfield facility for care. So I think it's important that we keep a handle on how our hospitals are doing and handling the inflow of patients. As of the time I got off the phone today, about 5 o'clock, there were 33 hospitalized in Greene County. 8 of those are vented. And then Greene County is also keeping track of what's called a capability score. They're factoring in the number of beds available, the employees to staff the hospitals, and the PPE that's available. So they're keeping all of that in mind, and they're scoring them on a range of 0 to 10. As of today, they're at 7.9. So they're still in a decent place. However, it's another piece of information that we can keep track of to make sure that if our hospitals fill up, we know that that's coming. I will say that one of the things that's impacted this, which caused me to go back and look at us on a larger region, was actually McDonald County and Jasper County. And there's one more, Newton County, all there together. Have had significant spikes. In fact, Jasper's reporting 733, Newton with 540, and McDonald with 678. My understanding is that the hospitals in Jasper County are overwhelmed, and that part of their overflow now comes to Greene County. So the reason I'm tracking a larger area as well is because of the understanding how that region, even though it's not a number we've been looking at, will in fact affect our hospitals and our ability to care for our residents. The other thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Webster County 911 calls for service. And I don't have numbers on this yet because the director is currently on vacation, but I have touched base with EMS services. I have learned a lot about why an increase of numbers of calls for COVID type care creates a strain on them. It actually puts an ambulance down for 40 minutes between each call. That's how long it takes them to disinfect the inside of the ambulance before it can go back out. So my understanding from Mr. Savage is that every time they go on a COVID call, that bus is down for an hour. On a 20-minute call, it's down for an hour. And that while they normally keep about 5 ambulances in Webster County, they currently kept about 7, just to handle that extra downtime more than an increased number of calls. So these are little bits of information that I've been trying to go out there and grab and make those connections so that I can learn more about this information. And I plan to kind of update this for myself and for you guys a couple times a week. And I would love to build a dashboard on our website, but I don't know how. So, but what I can do is build a spreadsheet. I'm very familiar with those, and I can send that out and just let everybody have that same information that I'm currently getting and that Michael's been helping me build these connections to get. And but I think it'll just paint an even more complete picture than what we've had so Does that sound okay? And with that, number 5 on your agenda for the resolution, that is not a resolution, that is the change order that we approved. So we are going to go on to number 6. And this, we need a motion and a roll call vote before we read this bill. And this was just a numbering error. So it reports here that we have bill number 2020-33 and ordinance number 1935. And we need the board to authorize us changing that to bill number 2020-35 and ordinance number 1937. And I need a motion, second, and roll call in order to do that.
This is just a clerical issue, is that it? That's all we're talking about?
Yeah, we're just fixing.
Yeah, move to approve.
Okay. Second. All right, roll call, please.
Aye.
Powers. Cameron.
Yes.
Okay. And then this is the pass-through permit fees that we discussed last meeting. And my understanding is the only thing that's changed in here is this E1 that's been added. Is that correct? Which allows us to pass through engineering, architect, or consultant cost only at the actual charge that we incur. Are there any questions on that wording before I read the bill? If not, I'll do the first reading. Bill number 2020-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 500, Schedule A of the Municipal Code of the City of Marshfield, Missouri, being a schedule of building permit fees and certain fees associated therein. Therewith.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call. Foster.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes. Yes.
Second reading. Bill number 2020-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 500, Schedule A of the Municipal Code of the City of Marshfield, Missouri, being a schedule of building permit fees and certain fees associated therewith.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call. Foster.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for helping us with the fix. Next item on the agenda is our resolution for the steep grant. Sam?
Yep, I've got Mel is still on here, whether you may or may not have any questions. If you guys remember, we have, you guys approved for us to apply for a steep grant. Mel's got some information if you guys want to go back over that, but basically it requires a resolution to go with it to DNR. And so what you have before you tonight is the resolution to apply for that. And like I said, Mel's here if you have any questions on what we're doing. But
I've got a question for you, just to make sure I'm remembering right. So this is just to keep it going, but it doesn't set, because I think we decided not to try to set how much we would take advantage of or commit ourselves to on our end, right? So that doesn't change this. This just keeps it going up to that point where we've got that decision made.
right, and so
okay.
and so Mel, this is, correct me when I'm wrong, but yes, this is not us accepting it, right? This is applying for it, and there'll be an acceptance. If we are awarded, then we will have to accept it. And when we go to accept it, then there was some of that additional work, which I think is what you were talking about, that would be above and beyond the grant.
Yeah.
So no, this is just the next process to get applied for.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Do you want me to read it? Perfect. Roll call. I'm sorry, that's Foster and
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
All right. DNR grant opportunity.
Yeah, so I've got Mel on here, and so Dwayne had actually reached out to me, and he sent me an email and asked me if I'd seen this this grant opportunity that may be coming through DNR. I had seen the bits and pieces of it come from SimCog, and so I went ahead and sent that over to Mel to look at and see, with all the stuff that we have going on, is this something that would fit, or how might this fit into our system, or everything we have going. And so Mel's prepared, he's more familiar with this grant than what I was, so he's prepared some information for you guys tonight in case you guys are interested.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is called a Section 604B Water Quality Management Grant, and it's due I think July 30th. It initially had a July 20th deadline, but they've extended that to July 30th. So I'll give you a little background on it. It'll be awarded through SimCog. The regional planning offices are doing that statewide. And so this is basically a grant to do studies, and the award amount can be between 25 and 50,000. There's no match required. All those criteria to see whether or not you get it. And one of the criteria is how much match you put into it. So if you decide to go after this, what we might do is, if you don't want to put any cash in, you can also do in-kind. You get credit for in-kind. So for example, I'll talk about some ideas for this grant in a minute, but if your staff goes out and helps identify, does some field work or something like that, we could call that an in-kind match, which would boost your chances to get this. If you do this and you get selected, you got 2 years to complete the study. We submit the application to the regional planning office. Statewide, there's $288,000 in funds. We talked to the DNR about this a couple of days ago, and they said they hadn't had a ton of interest, that they'd only had like 5 or 6 inquiries so far on it. That doesn't mean that there's not a ton of people applying for it, but they're not getting bombarded with questions. But it is a competitive grant, and so so it's hard to say, is it going to be easy to get it or hard to get it? Like I said, the applications are due July 30th, and then they would announce it by September the 30th. And then some of the things that you can do with this, I'm going to basically read you what they are, and then I'll give you some kind of ideas, I think, for what you guys could do with the money. One is identification of non-point sources in the watershed and or developing a source water protection plan. So this is all based around trying to improve water quality, stormwater quality. And so the non-point source would be like cattle, waste from cattle, fertilizers, that type of thing. So that's kind of what that one's about. The second was implementing a source water protection plan. So source is an identified pollutant source. It could be runoff from a pipe from a parking lot, or a sewer overflow, that type of thing. And then the third thing is MS4 permit technical assistance. And you guys don't have to do that yet. You have to have a bigger population, so that really doesn't apply to you. The next one is vulnerability assessment and resiliency plan related to stormwater and floodplain management. Assess water quality in at-risk watersheds and develop remediation alternatives. A feasibility for study, basically if you got a couple wastewater treatment plants, you can combine them together, or update a water quality management plan in a 208 area, which wouldn't apply to you. So what I was thinking is, if you wanted to do this, is that we could use this as a way to work on your I&I, because on your sewer system, is that you've got these sewers that run in these creeks, along these creeks and in floodplains, and you've got infiltration in those, and so when you have an overflow, it affects your stream water quality. And so you need to fix this, one, because it affects your stream water quality, but two, if you've got a lot of I&I in those pipes, it's giving you problems at the treatment plant. It's using up all your capacity, it's giving you operational problems, and it's giving you issues with DNR. So I think we could use this as an opportunity to identify more of your problems with I&I and come up with a plan that could be kind of a long-term plan that maybe even some of those repairs we could identify and prioritize, and then even some of them you might have to contract out, but some of that might even be able to be done by city staff over a long period of time. So that's just kind of the idea I had. You can do anything within this that you want to do with it. I mean, if it were me, I would go for it. It's money that you could use well in your community. If you don't use it, somebody else is going to use it, and ultimately taxpayers are going to pay for it. So if you could get the benefit in your city, I think that's great. So if you want to consider this, we could bring it back to you guys at your next meeting, and that would be about a week before the deadline. And we could, take an official action on it then, but it will take some time for us to put this application together. So if you think you're going to want to do this, if you could kind of give me an indication so that we could get started, even though that you wouldn't be committed, I'd like to get that tonight and we'll go ahead and start preparing it, but it wouldn't be official until you voted for it I think your meeting's on the 23rd. So.
What would it cost to apply for this because we need to engage somebody's services, and I think you're offering your services to do that, right? So what are we
we wouldn't we wouldn't charge you anything to do it. We would look at that as a business development cost, and we wouldn't charge you for that.
Okay, gotcha. So aside from that potential cost, which now we know is not, what other costs would there be to apply? My thought is we may not be unique, but we may be unique in the fact that we're a community that has the headwaters of at least 4, if not 5, streams that run both all the way to the Missouri River and the Mississippi, ultimately Mississippi, and then also down into Arkansas and so forth. And so as a point of responsibility for having that privilege, it certainly is worth our consider. I think we should absolutely consider our responsibility to look after the very front end of a lot of water that's going through our state. And particularly if as I'm going to call it the byproduct, is we get information that also helps our sewer system, then that's, of course, we should almost look at that as the bonus to making sure we're taking care of everybody's water. But to go along with that, if we were to take a look at it, I'd also want to understand what we could, if any, because let me make sure I have understanding. First of all, we could potentially be the recipients of a grant that we just use. We don't have to pitch in, but if we pitch in, it enhances our likeliness of being awarded. Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
But now it's a study, so a study is worthless unless it leads to an investment. And so having the board ought to have some understanding of what Mel's representing as probably the low-hanging fruit for us to use a help like this on. Sure. How does that translate into what we'd have to do for a budget, and what budget years would it have to impact to take advantage of that grant? So those are all things I think we need information to inform whether or not we're able to move forward, or it actually makes sense to.
And now I don't have the grant in front of me, but wasn't there a subsection under this one that all that we were required to do? Let me address it from that standpoint first. All that we were required to do if we were addressing the water quality was come up with was identify and come up with a plan, right? There was no implementation on that we were required to do.
Yeah, it doesn't require any implementation, but hopefully we would put something together that you would want to implement, and whether that is through a capital improvement project, or whether that is just, over time through your own forces or some combination. But we won't know the magnitude of that till we do the study, because we don't know the magnitude of the project.
But we wouldn't force our hand to have to do it if we're not ready or can't, because it's not feasible.
No.
So to me, it's another one of those by virtue of our responsibility of having the privilege of having the headwaters of
Sure.
4 or 5.
And a huge benefit of using it for the I&I. Mel and I talked about this earlier today, actually, or maybe yesterday. But a huge benefit on the I&I would be, let's just say we asked about stormwater and DNR, like Mel said, it wasn't super favorable. But on this one here, it doesn't really have a shelf life. These issues, these I&I issues, they're not going to go away. They're going to get worse, right? Not saying that a stormwater issue would go away, but it's going to change. As development occurs, as this lot develops, as this person takes care of their own drainage, as this person builds, it's ever evolving. These I&I issues, they're going to be in perpetuity. If we don't do something about it now, it's not going to seal itself up. It's going to get worse. And so I see it as a win-win for us. There's no cost involved to find out yet. No, and so
we could study it and see if we wanted to and could.
It would be the groundwork for a plan to address some of those, because in the application, which we can provide when we bring it back, but under the criteria, under these 7-ish topics that you can do, some of those are required for action. Like if you're awarded the grant, some of those require you to implement. Correct, Mel? That's the way that I read it. Yeah. But this one was not one of those.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Do we have consensus for Mel to go forward with this application and bring it back to us at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, Mel, it's all you now.
Okay, we'll get to work on it, and I'll talk to you guys at your next meeting about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Elm Street.
Okay, I'm gonna get Andy and Julie on here from CMT, and we're gonna go through this together. This is something that has come up this last week, and I think it's very good, and I think it's a good opportunity sitting in front of us. Elm Street, as you guys know, was not awarded. Elm Street wasn't awarded because it wasn't eligible for the cost share for the interchange project, and so it was designed, it was bid out, so we have the numbers on those. And so what HR Quadri is working on, if you guys have been up and down the interstate, and I hope to have Andy, I'll kind of put you on the spot. Maybe we can get some drone footage. I know you guys are gonna fly it soon. But they put asphalt down on the other side, and so they've got to get that detour opened back up before they can move over and start stripping on the other side, so they can start shutting things down. And so they're very, very close. And so the next step is to go down there along the new CC corridor and start stripping some of the dirt. One of the problems they have is that they are part of their contracts is that they can't just stockpile that like you see in some other projects. You see the large stockpiles, they've got to get rid of that. And so they were looking for a place to go with that. It just so happens that along Elm Street, we have Julie's on her, she can chime in. Andy, if you know, we have 10,000 plus cubic yards of fill that we need to bring in. And so this would, HR Quadri is basically saying that, hey, I think we can work out an agreement to come in and drop our fill and compact it as we go in lifts and basically build the road bed for Elm Street. There's a few areas in there, and that's why I've got Andy and Julie on here. I want them to be able to talk about the profile of the road if we wanted to go down that route. But there are some places in there, there's a stretch in there 500 or 600 feet long that does take a 3 or 4 foot cut. And so when we do go in and build Elm Street, I don't want the perception to be that it's ready to put rock on and pay. HR Quadri isn't, they're not offering to cut, they're just offering to waste their fill in the low-lying areas. There's several moving parts in this though. In the water contracts to extend the water main up and around that towards the new interchange, in that water contract, the contractor basically, we put in the contract for them to clear the entire right of way. So that's already going to take place. In fact, that's already started taking place this last week. So you've got the right of way, and then in the plans there is and Andy, chime in here anywhere where I misstep, right? But in the plans, and I think in here you've got it. I think I put a map in there. you've got temporary construction easements as well. And what that is for, those temporary construction easements are for, in order to get the back slope where you've got, there's places that get roughly 7 foot of fill in some of them. So there's going to be a pretty wide swath there where they're going to have to get mobile surfaces in there so that you can maintain it. So there are going to be some added expenses if we want to move forward with that. Minimal now compared to down the road. And when I talk about that, we've got a project meeting Tuesday with all the vested parties, with all the players at the table to see if we can get this thing together. Tonight, we're just kind of putting this in front of you. If you guys say, hey, put the brakes on, we're not interested, then we won't extend any more effort to go forward. But I'll know a lot more information after Tuesday, what the details are. The clearing obviously includes, there'd be some additional funding needed for clearing because it's outside of what was in the contract. There are also drain pipes that I've got the quantities and I've got some rough numbers that they are what I said, they're very rough. And so that's something we talked about for Tuesday as well. Who's going to install those, what that looks like, the time frame. The contractor for the contractor that was awarded the contract for the water has offered to strip the black dirt off of the roadway. And so basically what he's doing is he's prepping it for the fill. So it's a really good opportunity here to knock out a large portion of what we've already talked about and what is planned for Elm Street anyway. As I said, there's a lot of moving parts. Nothing really for decisions tonight, but I wanted to get in front of you. HR quadrants, when they break over and they come over on this side of the road, it's going to be fairly fast paced. And so it's pretty premature for me to even be here tonight talking about, but I wanted you guys to be aware because I don't know, and Andy, Julie, you correct me, I don't know that it will make it, that we will go another 2 weeks without having to have some kind of decision or another conversation in order to give the proper people guidance to move forward. So we may be looking at a special meeting. But Andy, Julie, you guys have anything to add to that? I mean, we talked about this, right? I mean, they've really been, these two have been really working to get this thing turned around. And like I said, there's just a lot of moving parts.
I can add a little bit. As far as the water main, the L.A. Davis is the contractor for the water main, and they can go out there right now, clear the area, clear the waterway, install the water main 42 inches deep and move on and be done. The problem is the road plans, there's a lot of cut and fill. So there's about, 600 feet of cut that if you guys bid it later in the future, that water main would have to be relocated. And then there's about 1,400 feet that would be pretty deep, anywhere up to even 12.5 feet deep, which is going to be an issue. So then that may need to be relocated. So I just, my opinion, I feel like there might be a lot of work in the future if they don't do the cut and fill now. But
the water line, so correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, but that water line was basically, the bids were all put out for that with the profile of the new.
Both profiles on there.
Yeah. And so that's why I said, so what she's saying is like they could go in, even if they staked that out with the cut and fill lines and said, okay, just put it into the right elevation, we'll come in and put our fill in some point in the future. It's going to be out of the ground in some places which pipe won't hold together and it will freeze. And then like she said, there's places where it'd be 12, almost 13 feet deep in a few places. And
right.
Not a good place to be.
So this isn't something that our engineers addressed and thought of earlier, that we're not having to come back at this time and try to see if we're going to tack on another.
So I would let them speak on that. The one thing that I can say is that when it was bid out as a total package, as everybody can remember. So the profile of new Elm Street is what went out for the bids for what went under or beside the new Elm Street. But as far as the design portion, I'll let Andy or Julie speak for that. Did you hear the question, Julie?
Well, I think I heard, was it considered when we were going through design? That, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think during design, we had the profiles for the road, and the existing profile. So it could have went either way, but then the Elm Street Road portion didn't get awarded, and that happened just right before we bid our project. I think it was the timing. So we had both profiles on our plans, but it didn't get awarded. So then now it's the issue is, do we just go through and install it 42 inches deep, or do we cut and fill it now? Did that answer the question?
Yeah, so it did. So it leads to another question. That water main, is it necessary without is it necessary yet? In other words, so the rest of that question, sort of to put it all together, is
To loop it, yes.
or do we just wait until we are in a position to do the Elm Street extension and put water in then, not redo water that would be at the wrong profile?
You're gonna have a long run, and it's just gonna dead end. You're gonna have it run all the way up Marshall, all the way down the new corridor to where the Elm Street connection would be.
Yeah, it's 2,500 feet.
With very little to no.
And so that dead end, that portion that would be there, dead end, is serving what? Serving nothing, right? So why put that in?
Yeah.
Right? Until we're ready. If we can't, I'm just saying, if we can't afford it, then we got to find alternatives.
And we can't
To not throw
afford
good money after bad. I mean, it's good we're talking about it, so we figure out what we can actually do, but we didn't do the Elm Street extension because we couldn't afford to do it.
So, and what we're talking about tonight, and everything that and I may should have corrected this, but so HR Quadri, and maybe I did, and you correct, you go ahead and ask where I'm at. So HR Quadri is basically saying they'll waste all that dirt and they'll come in and fill it for free and with no cost to us. What we would be out would be the cost of the additional clearing and the drain pipes, right, which is to be negotiated.
Okay, yeah, but so I caught that part. HR Quadri will waste what they've
Sure.
got there. But I thought I understood, and maybe I got this wrong, is that nobody's offering to cut where it needs to be cut yet, right? So it's not the whole picture.
But the places where it's going to be cut, they can survey and they can dig that and they can put it in deeper to elevation, so they wouldn't have to replace that. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
It does, but doesn't it also make sense that digging deeper is more cost?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to put it all together, right? I'm not formulating a decision yet because I'm not sure I've got enough information to know which way is the right way to go.
Yeah, we don't have enough information for you guys to make a decision. I just want to get all this out in front of you. So,
yeah.
But Julie, I want to make sure that one of you said correct there. So, are we saying that if Grant has to dig, if he digs through that field to put it on elevation, are we saying we'd see a change order on that?
If he dug through the fill, well, if he's going to go ahead and put it the 12 feet deep, yeah, because he bid it 42 feet deep, not 12 feet deep.
Yeah,
if that's the question.
Right. No, I'm with you. So all of this will come out in that meeting Tuesday, right? And so, that's what Tuesday's about. I just want to get it in front of you, so it's not just so we don't come to you.
Okay, so no decision tonight. Just
no.
Just start this conversation on what we would like to know. Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I would not know what decision to ask you all tonight.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Fair enough.
So I wanted to get this in front of you, see what additional questions. I've got 1,000 of them, but see what additional questions you guys might have for us to take to the meeting Tuesday.
There's a few.
Yeah, sure. And so Amy, Julia will both be there. Myself will be there. HR Quandary will be there. I mean, just there's 100 things to work out. And so, yeah, I just wanted to present it to you guys tonight for consideration. And
can we email you some questions to go along with your
Tuesday
meeting?
Absolutely.
I think I'm gonna have to stare at it. I'm not as familiar with the construction projects.
Absolutely. And so there are, and so what will go along with that, when Monica gets back, there are, let me be careful here how I say it. There are contingencies for the interchange project. What we're getting ready to enter into is what we kind of told the board that this would be the part of it that we're moving into right now that will determine how much contingency is left over because we're getting ready to go down. They're getting ready to start cutting. And so this is the part why we backed off and said, well, we don't know if we can do Elm Street or not because we don't know how much rock we're going to get into and how much additional cost we're going to get into. Now, off the top of my head, and I looked at some numbers today, I want to say that there was roughly $900,000 to $1 million left for the contingency side of it. And so what I want to do is I want to get all of these costs that are associated with possibly doing this. I want to visit with Andy and Steve and Julie and see what we're looking at and see what we think we might be running into with change orders or whatever we're going to do with rock. And then that's what I want to bring back to you with the whole picture. I just can't do that until after Tuesday, and I want to. There's a lot going on here, and I didn't want to bombard you guys on the same day, same week, or whatever it may be, and try to get a decision.
Okay, to add to the couple of questions I had before, it'd be interesting to understand the trade-off of, because if we wanted to get a profile, it's not just the filling that is on the table, but what we haven't addressed is when we would actually do the cuts that are necessary. So that would be a cost, and I don't know what cost, right? There's to do it, and then do we have cost to take those spoils somewhere else, or what they're doing? We probably might not even know if it's suitable for anything. Right? So to have maybe some notion of that, to offset the costs, maybe if we did that, rather than having to spend those dollars on digging deeper because it's not cut. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. To just kind of see how things counterbalance or don't, or if it's even close or what it might be. Because there's so many ways you can look at this.
Yes, there is. I've been working on this one pretty well nonstop, and I know these two have for the last couple of days. And so, and that's basically when it came about, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
we haven't hung on to it for any time. We hit the ground running with it, seeing that it could have. Julie and I had a conversation earlier, and if we were going to bring in the appropriate amount of fill, but this is just a preliminary number. We talked about this just before the meeting. What'd you say, Julie? We would potentially be talking about $200 and some thousand just to bring the dirt.
Well, that's for the 20 yards at
Right.
$12 a yard.
Yeah, so
it adds up pretty quick.
So there's lots of things to take into consideration, but we'll keep plugging away at it. And like I said, HR Quadri, they move dirt. When they got the contract, that was the one thing that they tried to stuff on. They said we can move dirt, and so they can do so. I just didn't want to hit you with it back to back and make a decision right away.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Sam. Mayor appointments.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
I'm recommending Skip Went to be appointed to the Finance Advisory Committee with a term expiring June 2021. And same individual to be appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term expiring January 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we have the bill for our annual financial disclosure. And I had to look this up because the university is a little different, but the Ethics Commission allows that if we pass, that cities our size are allowed to pass our own ordinance in order to deal with conflicts of interest and substantial interest. This is the ordinance that we have passed every year for many, many years. The wording came from the template that the Ethics Commission provides, so it's not much different. And it details what the responsibility of people within our government, our city, are responsible to do. So if there are no questions, I will proceed to read the bill. Bill number 2020-34, an ordinance of the city of Marshfield, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Second reading, bill number 2020-34, an ordinance of the city of Marshfield, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials.
Move to approve.
Second. Roll call. Austin.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And last on the agenda is the boost station improvements. Sam, you're back up.
Yep, and I've got Philly Superintendent Richard Neville's on here. I think he was kind of in and out. But he's coming out here audio. Thank you. So I gave you guys a map, and so just so you guys can see, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a precursor here before we even talk about what we want to do to the boost station. Some of you may or may not be aware of what it is or what it's at. So you see it right there. I've got it marked out, and so that's right. That other the east-west street there, the last one south there, that's Shaker Street. So right there on the east side of Elm Street, there's a boost station. So you guys might see it. It's a little stainless steel lid, and then under the ground there's a pretty good sized room. It's probably a 15 by 15 size room, probably 10, 12 feet underground. What that does is it houses pumps to boost the pressure up to this south portion of our distribution system. City limits line only goes up the hill just a little ways, about to just before you get to Cedar Brook, just kind of up the hill from Elm Street or from Shaker. All the rest of these lines that go out here, these are the lines that you see, and where you guys see things come through, and where people will hook on outside the city limits when they pay a double water bill. They're not hooked to our sewer system, but they are hooked to our water system. This system, these lines out here are very old, and they're PVC glue joints, and so the pressure can't be. That boost station is capable of pressuring it up significantly. We can't boost it up too much because of these pipes out here that won't hold it. They'll blow the glue joints pull them out of it, and it does happen from time to time. The city's required to keep 20 psi minimum in all of our water mains. You guys probably have had door hangers. You probably had phone calls from when we've had water leaks or when we've been doing work that, hey, your pressure may be dropping below 20 pounds. Here's what you do. We're required to keep that 20 pounds. And so without the boost station back in 03, when we did the last set of improvements, we couldn't maintain 20 pounds all the way through that. And so that's what the intent of that boost station was. So when it was installed, it was new technology to us. It was new at the time, obviously, but it's controlled right now. And Richard, if you're on here, correct me anymore I'm wrong, but it's controlled right now by a valve, by a manual valve that we can go out there. Those pumps are either on or off. They are very drive motors, but somebody's excited. But they are capable of spinning up, and they're capable of spinning down. We just don't have the technology in place to do so. The SCADA project that we're in the process of doing, it will give us the ability to be able to control that. It's newer technology than what it was when we put it in. It will also allow us to not have to control that manually. We'll be able to shut that valve, and it will be demand based, and so we'll be able to set the pressure. It will read that off of pressure transducers, and those motors will ramp up and down as they're needed, which should result in cost savings for energy efficiency, and should prolong the life of those motors as well. So with all of that being said, we were aware of this, that this needed to be taken care of with all the SCADA improvements. So back in budget season, we pitched this to the Finance Committee and to the Board of Alderman as well. It was put in the budget as priority one for $25,000 was what we estimated the cost to be. The proposal that came back was for $21,835.80. I talked to Paul, so it gets a little bit back and forth, a little bit confusing. So the boost station manufacturer is EFI. The proposal that you see is from ESI. ESI does all of the work for EFI. So any of it's basically a subsidiary of EFI. So it's a sole source issue just due to they do all of their work. I'm not going to say that there's nobody out there that couldn't do the work, but they would have to refamiliarize themselves with that station and with everything that's inside of it. So I talked to Paul and I said, hey, what do we do? And he said that basically is the definition of a sole source purchase. So what we're here tonight, it goes hand in hand with what we're doing with the SCADA system. They have, I think, Richard, they got 2 or 3 lift stations that they've already started on.
We've got one completed minus the capabilities of the server. And then we have another one started and we'll likely finish it next week, first of the week. So.
And so that project in lieu of all the other projects is really ramping up.
And two, for them to do anything on this boost station, if we're going to do these upgrades, it has to be done before they get there.
So there's a little bit of a lead time in order to do so. So staff recommendation would be to for you to approve the proposal.
And it's under what was budgeted.
Yes, under what was budgeted.
Yes.
Okay. Unless there's any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. For a second. You just said that.
I just heard you.
Which we did that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Future agenda items, I have that we would like Monica to prepare basically a settlement of the $10 billion water sewer bonding. And that also the DNR grant application will be coming back from Mel. That's all I have from our agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to add? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? 2 minutes past when I said. So